This story didn't begin with me looking for Stefanie Fetzer. It began when she appeared suddenly and strategically inside local politics. Within just months, she had embedded herself into nearly every sphere of influence in Kootenai County, rolling with political heavy hitters, aligning with power player pastor Paul Van Oy, and forming nonprofits like TradFam and the newly launched Kootenai County Turning Point USA Faith Hub. What's remarkable isn't just how fast she rose, it's how deep her reach now goes. From churches to campaigns, from the county's most powerful networks to its newest organizations, Stefanie Fetzer has positioned herself at the intersection of politics, religion, and influence. Now, who is she really? What's driving her sudden prominence? And what does it reveal about the growing alliance between politics, faith, and power right here in Kootenai County? After watching, you can decide for yourself. Before she ever appeared in North Idaho, Stefanie Fetzer was already a familiar name in California activist circles. In 2019, she co-founded Freedom Angels, a Sacramento-based protest movement that branded itself as a medical freedom organization. That September, protests at the California Capitol escalated, and news coverage confirms several arrests, including two of Fetzer's co-founders, Denise Aguilar and Tara Thornton. Fetzer appeared on Facebook Live immediately afterward, naming those arrested, describing the scene in detail, and taunting California Highway Patrol troopers, revealing her insider position.
There have been 14 arrests made so far. I don't know who all, other than Tara Thornton, Heidi Light, Denise Marie, I think Sandra RN, and I don't know who the others are. I'm texting with, they're allowing Heidi to text right now. You guys are gonna go down in history. We just don't know which side they're gonna go down on. You guys know Gavin Newsom put you under the bus today? He said you guys made the decision to be here. He said he doesn't have anything to do with it.
Then came something even more telling. In a recorded call, a whistleblower claimed that Freedom Angels organizers already knew in advance who would be arrested that day.
There were planned arrests. Two women were chained to the entry doors of the Capitol. They were planned by the Freedom Angels and I believe Parents United for Kids, but I'm not sure. And then I was unaware of that, obviously.
Based on that whistleblower's account, the arrests weren't spontaneous, they were choreographed. That detail underscores how coordinated and how connected the group really was within the activist and political networks of Sacramento. I've had informants who were involved in the Sacramento political scene at the time Stefanie Fetzer was part of the Freedom Angels group tell me that they have evidence through an email chain that the arrests that happened at the Sacramento Capitol that day were pre-planned, all the way down to who specifically would be arrested, namely those founders and people closely associated with the Freedom Angels group, Denise Aguilar, Tara Thornton, Heidi Light, and a woman who went by Sandra RN on her social media accounts. However, the person in possession of those emails hasn't come forward and produced that due to fear of retaliation. And without that evidence, I can't state definitively that these specific people were being arrested pre-planned as part of their political dog and pony show, but at bare minimum, it is suspect that the leaders and coordinators of this protest event were somehow just randomly plucked from a group of hundreds and hundreds of protesters who were at the Sacramento Capitol that day. What we do know is that these political operatives are well versed in political theater. They know what to do to get arrested, and that is evidenced here in a leaked message from Shauna Lambert. She's a political activist and personal friend of Stefanie Fetzer. It should be noted that Shauna has since left the political scene in Sacramento and is in lockstep with Fetzer right here in Kootenai County. In this leaked message from 2019, Shauna Lambert talks about the coaching that their activists receive on how to get arrested. The message states this: "They know they will get arrested. I don't believe some, but some I do believe. There have been discussions already with people who have been involved in direct action protests for years. How they do it, who you have do it, usually people without young kids, bail money ready to go, etc. Stefanie and I have been discussing this for about 2 months. Please do not share that with anyone."
We've got Crystal. That's a lock that has her chained to the door. No entrance or exit on this side today. They said, we're going to call the CHP. They're going to ask you 3 times. If you don't get down, you will be arrested. And so they asked everyone to leave the room, and they were threatening arrest. Well, then 40 minutes pass, and they say the CHP is not coming. Well, it's no secret why they didn't come. They can't afford for these women to be visible in the media because they don't fit Senator Pan's narrative of evil, violent terrorists.
They know us, and we are peaceful.
We're peaceful, loving mothers and fathers trying to protect our children.
Thank you, lady.
Another thing the Freedom Angels group has been accused of doing by people who had at one time been supporters is creating nonprofits and mismanaging funds, including raising funds for legal costs and bail money, which would, in theory, benefit those who they'd coach to be arrested, but then the money they were raising was not being used to benefit those suffering the consequences of those arrests. While I'm not accusing Stefanie Fetzer of spearheading this, she was a leader in the Freedom Angels group and used that group to further her political interests, and has a track record of creating nonprofit and PAC organizations herself. Around this same time, Fetzer co-founded a political action committee called Parents United for Kids, raising money around vaccine and education issues. Those PAC filings and nonprofit registrations placed her firmly inside Sacramento's web of grassroots political activism. But Fetzer's reach went well beyond health policy. She was named by state Senate candidate Austin Bennett as someone working behind the scenes on political hit pieces, a sign that her activism was already blurring into campaign operations and opposition work.
I don't know, maybe it could be Stephanie Duncan Fetzer because she's furious at me.
She also cultivated an unusually familiar connection to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., referring to him casually as Bobby in her own social media posts, a tone suggesting personal proximity or at least the desire to project that. And while all this unfolded, her circles intersected with others who were later swept up in federal investigations. In the Alan Hostetter case, Hostetter described a 2019 private meeting of California activist leaders, a gathering that included individuals tied to the Freedom Angels network, including Fetzer herself. Hostetter wrote that the vast majority of those in attendance at this meeting worked in some way for the FBI and/or U.S. intelligence agencies or at the behest of third parties or secret societies. That statement offers a rare window into the climate of suspicion and infiltration surrounding California's activist scene. And it underscores just how deeply embedded Fetzer had become in the overlapping ecosystem of political influence, protest movements, and law enforcement awareness in both San Clemente and Sacramento, long before she ever arrived in Kootenai County. By late 2020, Stefanie Fetzer began cutting ties with her California network. Her Facebook page, once followed by thousands, suddenly vanished. She publicly claimed she was censored, but the timing and precision of her disappearance suggests something more deliberate. This didn't look like censorship, it looked like a calculated reset. Behind the scenes, Freedom Angels had drawn support from Lee Dundas, a high-profile attorney known for her work with human rights causes, and a figure deeply embedded within the Church of Scientology.
We have been partnering up with different advocates across the state, like Lee Dundas, Dr. Cordy Williams, Pastor Tim Thompson, and Vivian, and I'm sorry, I don't know her name, from WeHaveRights.com.
Dundas wasn't just a distant ally, she represented the Freedom Angels legally and spoke at their rallies, helping to shape their early public image.
Leah Dundas was the attorney who spoke on our side.
Down? Yes, we're in this together. Look at here, some beautiful speakers. It's Lee Dundas. Woo! Woo! I only have a nice little photo up here. I think it would be great. Where do you think we should stand? I think we should head over here. Let's go back. I think we should stand.
While direct funding links are not publicly documented, a whistleblower familiar with the group stated that a Scientologist-affiliated organization financially supported the Freedom Angels. What is verifiable is that attorney Lee Dundas, a prominent figure within Scientology, represented and promoted the Freedom Angels during this time period. In Scientology circles, it's widely understood that collaboration typically stays within their own network, which makes Dundas's close involvement a strong indicator of the group's deeper connections. That means Stefanie Fetzer wasn't just adjacent to the movement, she was inside the circle, part of a network intertwined with Scientology influence at its highest levels. If those connections hold true, the implications are enormous. In Kootenai County, Fetzer presents herself as a Bible-believing Christian aligned with conservative pastors and faith-based organizations. But her past ties to Scientology, a belief system that stands in fundamental opposition to biblical Christianity, that would represent a massive ideological and ethical conflict. When Fetzer quietly attempted to erase her California footprint and then resurfaced here in North Idaho, it appeared to be more than just a move across state lines. It looked like a deliberate reinvention, a shift from her ties to Scientology-linked activism to a new image as a Christian conservative community leader. But she didn't cover her tracks completely. The breadcrumbs were still there, and by following them, I was able to uncover the story that she left behind. When Stefanie Fetzer arrived in North Idaho, she didn't quietly assimilate, she embedded. Within months, she'd woven herself into nearly every sphere of civic and political power in Kootenai County. She aligned herself with the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee and attended the high-profile Lincoln Day dinners while also promoting KCRCC-endorsed candidates like Sheriff Bob Norris. At the same time, she built strong ties inside Candlelight Christian Fellowship, where she currently uses an @candlelightchurch.org email address, signaling she wasn't just a congregant, but part of the organizational machinery. Her alliance with Pastor Paul Van Oy positioned her at the intersection of faith and politics. Publicly, she called him her pastor. Privately, she advised political figures within his orbit, becoming a bridge between religious leadership and political influence. Fetzer also launched or co-launched multiple nonprofit and advocacy projects. TradFam, promoting traditional family initiatives in this region, even receiving a Traditional Family Values Month proclamation from the Coeur d'Alene City Council. Also, Idaho Truth Action PAC, partnering with other local influencers such as Shauna Lambert and Aaron Barnard. And most recently, the Kootenai County Turning Point USA Faith Hub, which Fetzer co-founded. Aaron Barnard of Kootenai County Spectator is also a part of this. And Fetzer says this new TPUSA Faith Hub is in the process of becoming a registered nonprofit. While in the fledgling stage, they've already begun operating publicly through merchandise sales and event partnerships with Candlelight Christian Fellowship. At a recent Charlie Kirk event in Coeur d'Alene's City Park, attendees filled the crowd wearing the new Faith Hub apparel, signaling that the movement is already mobilizing even before its official registration. But even as her influence has grown, cracks are beginning to show. It's now rumored that there's an emerging power clash between the KCRCC and Candlelight Christian Fellowship. Fetzer, who once fundraised for and publicly boosted the KCRCC, has turned against the committee, aligning herself more fully with Van Oy's faction. The religious and political power structure rising in its place. This isn't just a political realignment, it's a fight for dominance over who shapes the conservative narrative in Kootenai County, the party machine or the pulpit. And Stefanie Fetzer is right in the middle of it. Once Fetzer established herself in Kootenai County's political and religious networks, her online behavior began to mirror what she'd done in California, creating echo chambers and controlling both sides of the conversation. Through a forensic linguistic review of dozens of social media posts, a pattern emerged. A Facebook account called Kelly Broderick displayed a 90% plus match to Fetzer's own syntax, phrasing, and punctuation. The Kelly Broderick profile began routinely inserting itself into local debates, attacking one side while defending another. The Kelly Broderick account attacked Fetzer herself, and Fetzer was able to push her ideas and political agenda through her responses to Broderick, which also established that Stefanie Fetzer had the more reasonable take. But the linguistic review of both the Kelly Broderick and Stefanie Fetzer posts points strongly to it being the exact same person. It's a classic tactic. Create the illusion of independent voices supporting your message while discrediting dissent. The Broderick persona also helped her pivot politically, warming up audiences that Fetzer had previously alienated. Most notably, the account paved the way for her alliance with Coeur d'Alene Councilman Dan Gookin, a figure she once mocked publicly, framing their new cooperation as unity for the conservative cause. Behind the digital mask, Fetzer wasn't merely debating, she was engineering narratives, testing public sentiment, and repositioning herself as the rational center of every controversy. As the balance of influence tilts, one question remains. Is Stefanie Fetzer a messenger or a strategist? Through her alliances, nonprofits, and public appearances, from city meetings to Candlelight's political education groups, Fetzer isn't just engaging in civic life, she's working to bend Kootenai County's faith and politics toward an agenda that may not be entirely her own. Who or what guides those actions remains unclear, but the pattern of influence is impossible to ignore. In the next section, we're going to look at how Fetzer leverages faith-based networks to advance political goals, blur institutional boundaries, and influence public opinion under the banner of moral authority. By the 2024 sheriff's race, Fetzer's coordination went far beyond Facebook. She was working closely with Davalu Cummings, a former Department of Homeland Security agent tied to Candlelight Church and Pastor Paul Van Oy. Fetzer helped drive a synchronized campaign to discredit Dan Wilson. The attacks were calculated and used the same words like anti-Semitic, angry, unqualified, dishonest. It appeared all across multiple accounts. Fetzer's posts, Cummings' statements, even official messaging from the Bob Norris campaign and from Pastor Paul Van Oy.
Question for you. I'm going to cut you off. Sorry. Is Dan Wilson a white supremacist? Okay. What's his position on Israel? I'm going to tell you why I'm concerned about it. Because I see some of the strongest supporters and the noisy ones that are anti-Semites. And that terrifies me. I've listened to him enough to know that I dislike him a lot.
But Fetzer didn't stop there. She aligned herself with Wilson's ex-wife, a woman clearly embittered and eager to settle old scores, and turned that personal grievance into political ammunition. With help from Aaron Barnard, Fetzer propped up the alliance publicly, posting photos, tagging each other on social media, and flaunting their connection as if it were a badge of honor. The narrative, born from bitterness, spread quickly through Candlelight Christian Fellowship, the Altar Church, and local conservative groups online.
Can I tell you what I've heard, and you can tell me if it's true? This is for our conversation. What I've heard is that he was an evangelical Christian, and then he became a Catholic. And then, as a Catholic, he had an affair with his assistant, divorced his wife. His present wife was his former assistant. Now they're married, and he got excommunicated from the Catholic Church because of it. Conversation has not left my lips ever.
What looked like grassroots outrage wasn't grassroots at all. It was scripted, it was organized, and it was designed to drown out the truth and destroy reputations. Fetzer wasn't just repeating talking points, she was weaponizing relationships and writing the playbook for political destruction. By 2025, Stefanie Fetzer's reach formed a complete influence web that extended from pulpits to political podiums. Her footprint includes PACs like Idaho Truth Action, created to amplify campaigns and attack political adversaries. Faith organizations such as TradFam, which she co-founded to promote traditional family values while hosting fundraisers, producing merchandise, and lobbying local government for symbolic resolutions. New ventures like the Kootenai County Turning Point USA Faith Hub, which now operates sometimes inside Candlelight Christian Fellowship, selling merchandise and coordinating messaging at major events like the Charlie Kirk Tour Stop in Coeur d'Alene.
Jesus is King. Amen? Thank you, everyone who came out tonight. Thank you for being obedient to the Lord's calling. Thank you for being here tonight to honor Charlie Kirk, but more importantly, thank you for honoring Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Special thanks tonight is to Stephanie and Aaron for coordinating all this, bringing a lot of people together, doing a lot of things.
Political alliances with local and state figures, from Sheriff Bob Norris to Senator Ben Taves, and other North Idaho legislators that she routinely promotes across her channels.
Yeah, notice that we don't call names, you do. You call names. Yeah, all of you call names. I said you're a joke, and you are a joke. Yeah, that is what I said. You're a liar. You are a liar. Yeah. Go back to California where you belong. Yeah. You're corrupt. The lot of you, you're corrupt. Corrupt.
Through these overlapping entities, Fetzer has become a gatekeeper of influence, someone who can mobilize churchgoers, volunteers, and voters with a single post or mention from the pulpit. What began as a relocation has evolved into a power consolidation effort.
Happy to have these guys in studio. These are friends of mine, but this is Senator Ben Taves, and this is Stefanie Fetzer. And Stephanie, why don't we start with you and kind of throw her under the bus immediately, and start with her and kind of explain who you are, and kind of briefly just like what got you into kind of local political activism and why tradfam.org means how that incorporates into your life.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm Stefanie Fetzer. I'm a homeschooling Christian mom of 3 kids. I was really into politics. I come from the state south of Boise, was super involved in politics for years, and then walked away in California saying I'll never be involved again because it was so corrupt until, in 2015, there was a bill introduced to mandate all vaccines on the CDC schedule for homeschool kids. So I jumped back in and sort of never looked back. We moved to Idaho about 5 years ago, not because of COVID, because of some other things. And I just laid low for a couple years to figure out the lay of the land. And my kids were actually involved in a speech and debate club, which is where I met Senator Taves, because his kids were there too. And I got involved in his campaign, and that was sort of my jumping off point. And he can share more about it, but he's my favorite statesman
awesome.
Probably on the planet. And then he founded tradfam.org with a few friends, and I'll let him tell you about it, but it was a no-brainer for me as a Christian, committed to my family, and just wanting to see those values lived out in our community and sort of take back some ground that the left had taken while we were kind of asleep with their Pride Month and all of that stuff. So that was a no-brainer for me. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Welcome.
She isn't just connected to a few pastors or one sheriff. She is positioned within nearly every conservative structure in the county: the churches, the PACs, the political committees, and the campaigns. Her influence is systematic, not situational. Yet major questions remain. Who opened the door for Stefanie Fetzer's rapid rise in Kootenai County? Why walk away from her growing Freedom Angels brand and her nonprofit Parents United for Kids in California just as they were gaining momentum? Who funded the launch of her new nonprofits, and what role do these organizations play in local election cycles? And how does a political transplant from Sacramento so quickly become an insider in one of Idaho's most tightly controlled political ecosystems? For someone who claimed her activism was born from personal tragedy, a mother fighting for her vaccine-injured twin daughters, her trajectory tells a very different story. Most advocates stay anchored to their cause because that's the focus of their mission. Fetzer abandoned hers the moment new power circles opened up. Until those questions are answered, transparency remains elusive and accountability seemingly impossible.